Hi, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well today. My name is Lydia, and I'm the Director of Admissions Outreach here at Clark University. I'm really excited that you're able to join us for our next Project Destination Clark webinar. Today, we're talking all about orientation. And I have three panelists here to help me out, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves first before we go over a few tech issues and then jump into our questions. So Allie Schilling is Director of Campus Life. I have Nico, a member of the class of 21, and Emma, also a class of 21. Allie, do you want to start us off?
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Allie Schilling. I am the Director of Campus Life for Student Leadership and Programming. I oversee all of the clubs and organizations on campus, manage the University Center, and more importantly to this webinar, I oversee orientation and the student-facing experience that all of our first-year students go through.
All right, Emma, do you want to go?
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Emma. I am the Social Programming Orientation Coordinator for the upcoming orientation. I'm in the class of 2021, and I'm double majoring at Clark in Spanish and Media Culture and the Arts. In terms of things that I'm involved in, I'm on the varsity cross-country team, and I'm also part of Big Brothers Big Sisters, which is a mentoring program that we have in local elementary schools. I've also performed in some of Clark Musical Theater's productions in the past, and I think that's everything. So, Nico.
Hey everyone, my name is Nico. I am an international student from Quito, Ecuador. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I am a junior here at Clark, double majoring in philosophy and political science. Outside of the classroom, I am the International Orientation Coordinator, so I am going to be working with the International Students and Scholars Office and with the orientation team to prepare international student orientation and also help with the rest of the orientation process. I am also the Vice President of the International Students Association. It is a club that kind of tries to give a platform to international students and celebrate the international student culture on campus. And I am also an assistant at the Dean of Students office, so I help with all the customer service type of stuff. How you doing? Welcome to the Dean of Students office. How can I help you?
Great, thank you all. So next slide. Oops, I think we're having some technical difficulties. I'll start going over the tech instructions right now then. So we are going to be using both the chat and the Q&A feature on this webinar. Please use the chat if you yourself are having any technology issues. And my colleague Nicole is behind the scenes and she will help you out. So if you can't hear us or anything like that. If you have questions for our panelists, please use the Q&A. That's where we're going to be answering all of your questions. And you can start submitting those as soon as now if you'd like, or submit them throughout the webinar. We will get to as many questions as we possibly can. Right now, there are 98 of you tuned in. So we may not be able to answer everything if we don't. I know that we are saving your questions in your name and we will follow up with an email. All right, so I'm gonna kick us off a little bit. Next slide. All right, so even before orientation, I know that one of the concerns I had going to college was what do I pack? So Emma and Nico, do you have any advice, something that you're really glad you brought to Clark or something that you wish you'd had in your first year? Nico, do you want to start this time?
Yeah, so I remember when I first came here, of course I didn't pack a lot. Bringing everything that one would need for their first year of college on a plane would have been a little bit hard. But I did try to, well, mainly I brought my clothes. The one thing that I was very thankful that I bought as soon as I got here was a fan. Now, I'm not used to the seasons. Back home in Ecuador, it's pretty stable all around the year. But the summer here is really hot. And so a fan was very, very useful for the first, I want to say, month and a half that I was on campus. After that, it wasn't as helpful, but definitely for the first couple of months, I wasn't expecting it. It was definitely something that I was grateful for. Then something that I forgot, and well, I didn't forget, I never had one. It's Massachusetts, so it gets really cold up in here. I'm expecting a lot of people from New England to be on this, so you're probably making fun of me, but getting a big coat was very, very good for me. I'm not built for this type of weather, and I was thankful for this big coat that my dad got for me, because when the winter came around, it yeah, my hoodies and sweaters weren't cutting it anymore.
All right, Emma, what do you wish you had brought or glad you did bring?
I also had been thinking of a fan because, like Nico said, it does get pretty warm, especially at the beginning of the fall semester in the dorms, and having like a nice big box fan for your window is really helpful. But on another note, I'm a huge coffee drinker, so I found it really helpful to have a French press in my dorm, which you can get one for like $15 on Amazon or at Target. And it's a really easy way to make coffee like in your dorm room or in the kitchen in your dorm. And then you can like just have it in your dorm or bring it with you. On the same note, having a travel mug is also really nice. You can either make your own coffee or tea or whatever you want, or you can bring it to the dining hall and like grab some tea or coffee while you're there and bring it with you on your way to class or something like that. So that was something that I found really helpful and just like comforting to have as well.
Great, thank you. My next question is actually for Allie. So as students are preparing for orientation and for entering Clark in the fall, are there any tips that you would give to students and or their families as they get ready for this experience?
Yeah, so orientation is always really exciting, and I know people start planning for it now and throughout the summer. And so, Nico and Emma, those were some really good tips that you just gave about what to pack. I think some tips that I would give for orientation over the summer is make sure you check the website, the orientation website. Often there is information for families as well as students. And all of the information provided on the website is as up to date as possible and as detailed as possible. And there will be emails on there for you to contact if you have more questions, depending on what your question is about. Regarding orientation in general, I think it's important for students to kind of know what orientation is about and what we hope that you get out of orientation. And that way you can start mentally preparing for that in the summer. The three main goals of orientation is to help you all get to know each other and bond as a class, understanding the expectations of college level work, and getting to know your peers and the peer mentors that'll be with you throughout orientation is a great way to understand your expectations and maybe some expectations that faculty will have on you as a student as well. And then lastly, and I think maybe most importantly, orientations is really a time for you all to get to know your way around campus and see what Clark has to offer and all of the resources that are available. Another tip I think for summertime that I would give you is, I know in the age of texting and Facebook and Instagram and all of the other social media outlets, people don't necessarily pick up the phone, but I do see success in students who, once they find out who their roommate is, to call them once they get their number and have a conversation, and you just generally seem to bond a little bit more and can talk about things that you wouldn't necessarily talk about over text message, I guess. And so starting to get to know your roommate, your peer mentor, like I said, who's with you during orientation, will reach out to you over the summertime as well via email and a letter. And so there are people who are here for you in the summer, and a lot of information that Clark will provide to help assist as the summertime goes on.
Great, thank you. So my next question is for Nico. I think this is a question that a lot of incoming college students have, but how do you get to know each other during orientation? Are students always in large lecture halls, learning the nuts and bolts of the school? Are you in small groups? Are you seeing the campus? What kinds of activities go on?
I think that, as Allie mentioned, one of the big objectives of orientation is for students to get to know one another. And this happens in very different ways. Like, as you mentioned, there are some like big lectures. There's some things that we need everyone to know. But then a lot of the activities and a lot of the conversations that you're going to have during orientation week are going to happen in smaller groups. So the way that it works is that all students are broken up into peer mentor groups. These peer mentor groups are going to give you the opportunity to have to kind of like decompress and also like kind of like break down the information that you're getting during these lectures. Your peer mentors, which are student leaders chosen by us, they're going to help you break down and understand what the university is expecting from you. They're going to help you understand how socializing works, kind of like how things work around campus, and then also help you get to know the other members of your peer mentor group. Aside from that, there's also a bunch of social activities that happen during orientation week. Those happen after all the activities and lectures and all that stuff is done. So normally at night, there would be food, there would be games, there will be activities to go to that are a little bit more fun and more relaxed in that sense. So those are a couple of opportunities that you have during orientation week to get to know other students, other new students, other students that are working as peer mentors or resident advisors in the dorms, other people like that, yeah.
Thanks, Nico. And I think it's important to note that those are our main objectives of orientation, and we should do whatever we can to help students feel comfortable and getting to know each other, whatever way that you feel comfortable getting to know each other. Like Nico said, there are the peer mentor groups, and so the peer mentor will lead a group of roughly about 15 students, first-year students, through orientation. And then new this year, these students will stay with their peer mentor throughout the fall semester as you take your Clark Navigator Hour, which is the first year experience hour. And so you'll really get to know your peer mentor and the students in your orientation group as you spend time with them each week throughout the fall semester. And lastly, I think Nico, you did a great job kind of explaining what orientation looks like. And we want to acknowledge that even if orientation looks a little bit differently this year, those will always be our goals and always be what we strive to offer you for orientation.
Great, thank you. And then for Emma, this will be my last formal question. So if you'd like to ask your own questions, please go in the Q&A chat box now, the Q&A, and we'll answer those next. But Emma, can you talk a little bit about how any of the connections that you made during orientation have lasted for you?
Yeah, for sure. So I think that during orientation, you have the opportunity to meet lots of people in a variety of settings, like Allie and Nico talked about. Whether these settings are formal or informal, and by that I mean like whether it's like an organized discussion within your group, or maybe it's more of a social event where you get to go around and like get some free food or play some games with different clubs. I think that one way in which I was able to make connections during my own orientation that lasted for me were through some of the social events. I was able to meet people, especially that lived in my dorm, which is something you have the opportunity to do throughout the semester and even throughout all of your first year at college, but definitely participating in some of the social activities during orientation in my own dorm. I was able to meet lots of people that I did end up becoming friends with throughout the semester, and it was great to have that opportunity during orientation to like initiate those relationships.
Great, thank you. So this is our first audience question. I think it's a good one for you, Nico. But what would you recommend doing if you do not have a car to bring stuff to campus? How do you move in? How do you get what you need?
Okay, so the way I worked it out, and having worked as a peer advisor for 2 years, the way that I see international students working with it mainly is you bring as much as you can, like with suitcases and stuff when you first move in. Mainly like focus on your clothing and all that stuff that you don't want to get like brand new, and then the rest of it, I think that, like as I mentioned, my fan and a coat and all those kind of things, I got through. There's buses that run during orientation week to local shopping malls, so that's an opportunity to get as much as you need, and that's that's I think a way to get everything that you can get here if you don't have a car, basically. Yeah, those shopping trips really, really saved my life. They were very, very useful. I also made a lot of friends during those shopping trips, a lot of international students that were here by themselves. We were kind of figuring it out together, having those conversations with our peer advisors as well, and they were helping out with us knowing what to buy, what not to buy, what was going to be useful. So yeah, that's how I would recommend getting stuff here if you don't have a car.
Great. And then I think this question I'll throw to you, Emma, but it's about dorms. And are the dorms co-ed? And then Allie, if you want to follow up with any insight you can give into how dorm rooms, roommates are chosen, that would be helpful.
Sure. So I can give you a little bit of a breakdown of the dorms that are available for first-year students. Two of them are Bullock and Wright Hall. These dorms are a little bit more modern and what you might expect of a typical college dorm. There are straight hallways, like lots of rooms down the hall, just like doubles. They have communal bathrooms. They have, what else is there? The bathrooms are communal and they are separated by gender identity, either by wing or by floor. So what that means is either it will be all female identifying students on a floor or just in that one hallway. The other dorms that are available for freshmen are Dana and Hughes. These buildings are typically a little bit older, but the rooms are a little bit bigger as well. They are not separated by gender identity, so they're co-ed throughout the hallway, throughout the floor. And then the bathrooms in these dorms are also single stall. So what that means is there's like a shower, a sink, a toilet, and it's just like a single stall and you can shut the door and you're the only one in there. And then there's also Dodd Hall, which is the same style as Dana and Hughes. And this is an all-female identifying dorm that is available for first-year students as well. And then in the residence halls, there are common rooms in all of them where people can hang out. Sometimes there's like a pool table or something like that. There's a TV, so you can just kind of like hang out and meet people in your dorm, which is another great way to meet people. And there will also be resident advisors who are upperclassmen, sophomores through seniors, that are a great resource for new students. If you need help with something, you have any questions, they live throughout the dorms as well, and they can answer any questions you have and help you with anything.
Can you all hear me okay? Okay. In full transparency, I do not work in residential life and housing. We just work closely with them. I can't give too much insight on how roommates are chosen, but I do know that both students, if you request to live with somebody, you both have to request to live with each other on your housing paperwork, and then housing will put you together if possible. And I'm pretty sure that there's a survey type of agreement that students fill out to be matched with others who, if it's random, with others who are looking for roommates as well. Unfortunately,
I can touch on that if you want.
Yeah, that'd be great, Emma.
So there's like, I think they call it a lifestyle inventory. What you do, it is technically like if you're looking for a random roommate, that's what you would do. You fill that out, but it's more so based on how you like to live. So do you go to bed late? Do you like to keep the window open when you sleep? Do you want visitors in the room? That kind of thing. And so you'll be matched with another student who realistically has similar living styles to you. So while it is random, you'll likely be placed with someone that likes to go to bed around the same time or likes to keep the room the same amount of cleanliness. So that's kind of what Allie was mentioning there.
To be most successful, we encourage you to fill that lifestyle survey out yourself and not have a parent or family member or guardian fill that out for you. We find it most successful when the student fills that out honestly.
And also, I think that it's important for you to fill it out yourself, because the lifestyle form doesn't only ask you about your lifestyle. Like, yes, it does ask you about like, hey, do you want to have people over and all that type of stuff. but also it asks you what you like doing on your free time. What are your hobbies, stuff like that. So for example, with me and my roommate, yes, we were matched on kind of like our living styles. We were both like, we're kind of clean. We both like going to sleep like at 11 p.m., like all that type of stuff. But we were also matched on the fact that we both like music. We both like playing instruments. We both like spending a lot of time on the internet, like that type of stuff. So it's because the lifestyle forms are paired by hand. They're not only matching you with someone that you can live with, but someone that you can become friends with, which is not always the case. And it's not, you don't need to become friends with your roommate, but because of the way that they do it, it's pretty easy. So for example, I became best friends with my first year roommate, and I'm living with him again now in my off-campus apartment because yeah, that type of, the way that they match those is very conducive to a friendship.
Great. And now, Emma, why don't you answer this one? But are students in the same orientation group matched by major? So is everybody who's an English major going to be in one orientation group, math major in another orientation group? How does that work?
Sure, that's a great question. So students are not matched by major in their orientation groups. It's a good mix of like, also honestly, not a lot of students know what they want to major in. So it's a good mix of like people with different interests. They're not sorted by any specific thing like that. So yeah, they're not, I don't know if Allie or Nico wants to add anything to that, but they're not sorted by major, but there is the ability to like still find plenty of common ground and like things to talk about. And the peer mentor, who is like the leader of the orientation group, does a great job facilitating that for students.
Great, thank you. And I don't know if you can think back into your vault of when you were first year students arriving at Clark, but computers and printers, do you need one? Do you need both? What other kind of tech supplies should a student have coming in?
So when I first came here, I only had my laptop, but honestly, you don't need either one. So if you don't want to bring either one of like either a computer or a printer, you're completely fine. I didn't bring a printer, and I haven't gotten a printer since I got here because you have access to the printers and you have a printing allowance. So essentially, you just send an email to the printing email, and you just go to any of the printers on campus, swipe your card, and it shows you the files that you've submitted, and you just print them. If you need more printing allowance, you can add that. So on the printer side, I think you're very safe by not bringing yours. If you decide that you don't want to bring your computer, or you don't have a computer that you can bring, or whatever the case might be, there are computers available in a lot of places around campus. I think that the main one is the library. There's computer labs, and there's a bunch of available computers with all the programs that you can need. So yeah, if you don't want to bring a laptop, or if you don't want to bring a desktop computer, those are always available. And they're super useful. They're very good computers, and they have a lot of the programs that you need for classes, especially if you have like a stats class, or if you have what does JS stand for? Geographic Information Services? Geolog. But yeah, they have those types of programs. Everything you need for computer science or advanced math and physics classes, those are all available in the Clark computers.
I'm going to interject for a minute, and I acknowledge that we are getting a couple of questions about the current state of the world and what that means for orientation. Clark is in the same position as everybody else right now. Can you hear me? Yes, okay. So we are paying close attention to the news, close attention to what the CDC says, what all of the experts are saying. We have suspended our own on-campus classes for the rest of the semester. As a school committed to global leadership, we felt like that was a really important move to live that mission and to practice social distancing and all of that. We have not received that same advice for when orientation begins, but again, we're just going to play it day by day. And if you have specific questions about your specific situation, if you are an international student, if you were considering a gap year and wonder about that, anything like that, please get in touch with your admissions counselor. We would be happy to talk to you one-on-one. But for right now, we plan on having orientation on August 20th. All right, so let's move to vegan dining. Who wants to talk about the food at Clark? Emma?
Sure, I'll take this one. So there's lots of options in the dining hall. In terms of places to eat on campus, our dining hall is our main option for food. We also have what we call the bistro, which is kind of a grab and go option. There's a grill there and there's a salad bar, and you can take your food and either eat it there, or it's all packaged up and you can take it on the go. So that's a good option if you are either rushing or just want to take your food with you somewhere else. But in terms of the dining hall, there are stations with lots of different options. We have one station with food that is free of the top 7 or 8 allergens. So that is a great option. We do have a vegan station that has a different option every day. And there's also a grill, a salad and soup bar, and a pizza bar. So there are lots of consistent options, and then a few stations that will switch what they're serving every day. I have found that there's always something that I'm happy to have for lunch or dinner or whenever I go to the dining hall. And I've also found lots of ways to be creative with the food. If I can't find an option, there's like a rice bar and a salad bar, and they can also make you like grilled chicken or fried eggs any day of the week, anytime. So I think that I've like never had problems finding something to eat. I was a junior this year in an on-campus apartment where I could cook for myself, but I chose to actually stay on the meal plan because I not only was like happy to eat the food, but I love the dining hall. It's one of my favorite places on campus. I just think it's like really cozy and I love seeing my friends there. So yeah, I think the food is pretty good and I don't have many complaints. So I hope that answers the question.
Great. So for Nico, we'll start with Nico and then we'll move to Emma. What's your favorite orientation activity?
I think that one of my favorite orientation activities, especially this year, I think that this year was the year that we started doing it, was an opportunity that we gave students to ask questions, because you have a lot of opportunities to get to know your peer mentor. You meet with them often, and so you get to know them pretty well, know about their major, know about their involvement on campus. But this year, we try to switch it up by mixing groups together. So we would, my group, and for example, in my case, it was me and this other peer mentor named B. We both got together and handed out pieces of paper, and people got a chance to write down their questions and pass them down. And so we kind of did like a Q&A, like basically what we're doing right now, but in a more, like at a point where you've already gotten some information, gotten to interact with a couple people and new questions arise. You don't often have the time to ask these questions, or the situation may not be conducive to you asking these questions. So that opportunity to just ask not only your peer mentor, but other peer mentors this question was very cool. It also gave us an opportunity to meet other groups of peer mentors, other peer mentors and their groups. So yeah, that was by far my favorite activity. And aside from that, the icebreakers are always super fun. My group wasn't too happy at the beginning, but after playing them for a really long time, they got used to them and they were asking for more icebreakers by the end.
I would agree with that. And typical like orientation leader, but I do love the icebreakers. I remember I have this memory of my own orientation as an incoming first year student being on the green that is actually in this picture, and having all of a sudden everyone just playing like rock, paper, scissors. And I was like, what is going on right now? Like, why is everyone playing rock, paper, scissors? But I don't know. Some of you may have played this game before, but it goes so that if you lose to the person, then you have to start cheering for them. And all of a sudden, like everyone on the green was like cheering for different people until it got down to the top 2 people that were left in this game of rocks, paper, scissors. And I just thought that that was hilarious and unexpected. But I would say that icebreakers are a really fun part of orientation, but some other things that I really enjoy are the events that have free food, because that is a huge perk of orientation. But one of them, there's like a Taste of Worcester event where we have different foods from different local restaurants. There's a restaurant called Hacienda Don Juan that has great pupusas. So any chance to try food from local restaurants at orientation, I think, is another favorite of mine as well.
Great, thank you. So we have a question coming in about, I think it's related both to orientation, but then life at Clark afterwards. And that's, how do you learn about all of these activities and events that are going on? Is there a website, a calendar? How do you stay knowledgeable about all of this stuff? Allie,
Well,
do you want to start? Yeah.
I can talk a little bit about that. Our student life at Clark is really led by our 130 student clubs on campus. They are consistently putting on events and putting on activities and having meetings. And if there isn't a club that you want to join, it would be hard for you not to find one that you want to join, but there's opportunities for you to create clubs as well. If you find an interest that a couple people have in your class. There is a website that student clubs submit their events, and you are able to go and see what's coming up. You can log in using your Clark credentials, and you can see what's coming up in regards to events. And then I also send out every Monday and every Thursday, it's called the What's Happening email. It's basically just events and activities and engagement opportunities for students, faculty, and staff to engage with throughout that week, or those 4 days, Monday through Thursday and Thursday through Sunday. And so a lot of students get information that way. We also have some tables that students will sit and meet in person as other students as they're leaving the dining hall or walking across campus. And so there's the virtual opportunities, but also a lot of our students engage in person as well.
Great, thank you. Niko, can you answer this? Do you get your student ID at orientation or before orientation?
So you get your student ID the moment that you sign in the first day of orientation. So you get here, you check in. So during that check-in, they will ask you for your name. They will give you a badge with your name, with your peer mentor's name, and you will get a little envelope with your key and your Clark ID. So that's when you get all of that stuff. Then you have a couple of hours to get settled into your room, and then I believe activities start. So that's kind of how it works for the first day of orientation.
It is important, though, if you want your ID at orientation, you do have to upload your photo so that it can be printed before. Otherwise, when you check in, you'll get a temporary ID, and then you'll have to go to the one card office, which we call our student IDs one cards. You have to go to the one card office later to pick that up.
Thank you. And that actually leads me to ask Emma, can you just tell people what to expect on move-in day? I know it's a big production, and having some sense of what it looks like would be really helpful.
Sure. So typically there are tables set up outside of all the residence halls where first-year students or any new student will be moving in. And the peer mentors, who have a ton of energy on move-in day, are all set with all these boxes and rolling carts to help you unload your cars and move in. So there will be a system where you drive up to the table and you can get out and sign in, and then whoever, if you are alone, then people can help you unload your car into boxes, or if you have people with you, they can start to unload your car, or anything like that. And then we can help you, or peer mentors will help you put all your stuff in boxes and bring it right into your room, where we will unload or help you to unload, and then you are just free after you unload everything to start setting up your room. And then typically there's a welcome address around midday with the president of Clark, and after that you'll meet your own peer mentor, and activities will begin. But move-in starts pretty early in the morning, and there's like a few hours of a window when you're allowed to move in, and you can come anytime during that window.
Thank you. So we are starting to run out of time, so I'm going to ask one last question that I wanted to ask you all, but actually one of our attendees wanted to ask you this too. which is why did you choose Clark? And let's start with Allie for a staff perspective, and then we'll go to Emma and then Nico.
Yeah, so I was new to New England when I started working at Clark. I am from Wisconsin. I grew up around the Milwaukee area, and I then moved out to Reno, Nevada for grad school and worked thereafter. And so it was really exciting moving across the country to a new location and new school. But what really led me to apply to my position at Clark was the reputation that the students have, the passion that I saw in the students at my on-campus interview, and really the collegiality around the staff and faculty at Clark. And I've been at Clark for about 4 years now, and it is pretty awesome to see the team that we have at Clark, knowing that all of the staff and faculty, as well as students, are here for each other and for our peers and our students. And I think what we're going through right now goes to show that we can bond together and accomplish a lot when we join together and are able to work together for the common good. And so those are a few of the reasons why I chose Clark and then decided.
So I think even though I chose to come to Clark as a student and wasn't applying specifically to a job like Allie, there's very similar reasons why I chose Clark. When I first visited Clark, like very late in my senior year, I was really like struck by the community and the approach to learning of this that the school had. So I think that a lot of students at Clark have a very community-oriented nature, whether it be within the Clark community or their eagerness to go out into the Main South community, which is the area around Clark, the neighborhood that it's in. And I think that also the learning style that you will see in many classes at Clark really has an emphasis on learning by doing things, whether it be doing like community-based projects. I've been in classes where I've gone into elementary school classes to observe, and other classes where we've hosted events as well. And so I think those are two huge reasons why I chose Clark. But also I think that I really felt at home as soon as I got here. It has a really homey feeling to me. And I make fun of my mom for saying this, but she is always like, you have to find your people, like be with your people. And I really felt like at Clark, they were people that I wanted to be with, like very outgoing, passionate about what they're interested in, and like proud of the things that they were doing. And that really made me comfortable and excited about Clark as a school. So those were definitely the reasons why I chose it.
Okay, my turn. I think that my reasons for choosing Clark were a little bit were more practical, I guess. When I started looking for colleges, my parents wanted me to find somewhere that was affordable and had a good education, which honestly like makes a lot of sense. I don't think I can fault them for that. The point of going to school is to learn and to be able to pay for it, or like you have to be able to pay for it. So those are some pretty good standards to go by. But while I have learned that that's not everything that there is to going to college, that was what drove me here. That was what put Clark on my list, and what kept it at like very high up on my list until the very end. What made the decision for me in the like in the moment of depositing was that it is very close to Boston. I can fly home if need be. If there's an emergency, my parents can come in, or I can go back home. I was able to afford it. Clark was very very helpful with my scholarship and helping me be able to afford Clark. And also at the time when I was applying, I was already decided on studying political science. And so after researching about the faculty and the type of research that was going on at Clark, the focus that they take in the political science department, I was convinced that if I decided to go here and study political science, I would get the most out of it. So when focusing on those things, it was pretty easy to choose Clark. Now that I've had the chance to be here for 3 years, I realize that there's so much more that can make you choose Clark, like as Emma and Allie said, the community, the drive that people have, the passion, their ability to dedicate themselves to the work that they do while still being able to live outside of that and be able to be a part of the community without letting their passions or their studies consume them. I think that the first day here, President Angel said a phrase about Clarkies that has stuck with me. And I'm definitely paraphrasing. I'm not saying that I remember something that was said 3 years ago, but he said something along the lines of Clarkies take their work very seriously, but they don't take themselves very seriously. And I think that as years go by, that just becomes more and more true. So yeah, I think that those can be the reasons that you can choose Clark. If you want to be a little bit more practical, like I was 3 years ago, there's still so many reasons to decide to come here. So yeah.
Great, thank you. I will add my own why Clark to that. So I was actually a college counselor at a boarding school before coming to Clark, and I have never met a more optimistic and kind student body after touring 80 college campuses as a part of that job. So if you want to be with glass half full people who are warm and welcoming, it's a good place. So our final slide should point you to our next webinar, which is actually on Thursday, and it's going to be about the Career Connection Center. You need to register for that. The link is below. And if you have questions that you weren't able to submit through the Q&A chat, please just send us an email, admissions@clarku.edu, and we will be following up with everybody whose question we were not able to answer today. So stay healthy, and thank you for joining us.